This is what decades of research actually show about the foods that protect your vision as you age, drawn not from myths or marketing, but from what the National Eye Institute and the world's leading eye doctors have verified. I want to be honest with you from the very first minute, because most videos on this subject are not. There is a real difference between food that protects your eyesight and food that reverses vision loss. And it's a difference almost nobody bothers to explain. Nothing you eat can change the physical shape of your eye, and neither can any supplement, which means no food will ever cure nearsightedness, farsightedness, or astigmatism. And none will undo the reading glasses most of us come to need with age. Those problems get corrected with glasses, contacts, or surgery. The American Academy of Ophthalmology states it plainly, that vitamins and supplements do not cure eye disease and will not hand back vision that has already been lost. I realize that lands oddly in the opening minute of a video about food and eyesight. Yet stay with me, because the honest truth turns out to be good news. What ends up on your plate matters enormously for preserving the eyesight you still have. And it matters for slowing the age-related decline that threatens millions of people past the age of 50. That goal deserves real attention, arguably more than chasing a cure that does not exist. Over the next several minutes, I'll walk you through which foods truly earn their reputation, which specific nutrients your eyes rely on and why, how much of each you genuinely need, and the places where popular advice gets it badly wrong. We'll get into the most famous eye food myth ever told, the two nutrients that quite literally live inside your eye, the real disagreement among doctors about fish oil, and the single strongest piece of research that pulls the whole story together. The myth is the natural place to begin. The carrot story, and what's actually true. You have heard your entire life that carrots help you see in the dark, and the origin of that idea is a true story worth telling properly. During the Second World War, Britain's Royal Air Force began flying with a secret onboard radar that let their pilots locate and shoot down German bombers at night, in the middle of the blackouts of the Blitz. That technology was so valuable that the government wanted its very existence kept hidden, which is when officials handed the public a cover story, claiming their pilots had grown so deadly in the dark because they were eating enormous quantities of carrots. On the night of November the 19th, 1940, an RAF pilot named John Cunningham recorded the first night kill using that onboard radar, downing a German Junkers 88 bomber, and the press soon knew him by the nickname Cat's Eyes. By the end of the war, he had tallied 20 victories, 19 of them after dark, and the public kept being told, story after story, that his extraordinary night vision flowed straight from a carrot-heavy diet. Britain's Minister of Food at the time, Lord Woolton, leaned into the campaign hard and promoted carrots everywhere, partly to steer a rationed population toward a vegetable that happened to be plentiful. Here comes the part most people leave out, and to my mind, it's the most interesting piece of the whole tale. Historians broadly agree the Germans were never genuinely fooled, since they already knew radar existed, and a curator at the RAF Museum has explained that the Air Ministry was content to go along with the carrot story without ever seriously expecting to deceive German intelligence. The campaign's lasting effect landed instead on the British public, and through them on the rest of the world, which is why so many believed it then, and an astonishing number still believe it now. A sliver of truth does sit buried inside it. Carrots are rich in beta-carotene, which your body converts into vitamin A. And vitamin A really is necessary for night vision. But the catch that matters runs like this. Eating more carrots only sharpens your night vision if you are short on vitamin A to begin with. A reasonably healthy person who loads up on carrots will not gain the eyes of a cat or an eagle, because the vegetable can correct a shortfall and nothing beyond it. That honest version of the carrot story leads us straight to the nutrient sitting at its center: vitamin A and the chemistry of night vision. Vitamin A earns the spotlight first, and once you see how it operates inside the eye, the carrot myth makes complete sense. Deep in the retina, your body uses vitamin A to build a light-sensitive pigment called rhodopsin, the substance your eyes depend on to function in dim light. Picture the moment you step into a darkened room and your sight slowly returns, because that gradual recovery is rhodopsin doing its job. When someone runs truly short of vitamin A, one of the earliest warning signs is night blindness, a struggle to see in low light. And in more severe cases, the deficiency dries out and damages the cornea, the clear front window of the eye, until blindness can follow. This is no rare or trivial problem on a global scale, because vitamin A deficiency ranks as the leading preventable cause of childhood blindness anywhere on Earth. The numbers are sobering. The World Health Organization estimates that between 250,000 and 500,000 children lose their sight to it every year, and roughly half of those children die within 12 months of going blind. The scale stretches further still, with an estimated 250 million preschool-aged children affected by this deficiency worldwide. As recently as 2013, vitamin A deficiency was classified as a public health problem, touching about a third of all children between 6 months and 5 years old, and the heaviest burden fell on sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia. Outright deficiency stays uncommon for most people watching in a developed country. Yet these figures make one thing clear: that vitamin A is foundational to sight rather than optional. You'll find ready-made vitamin A in animal foods such as liver, eggs, and dairy, while its plant-based building block, beta-carotene, shows up in many of the colorful foods we already enjoy. Carrots belong on that list, of course, alongside sweet potatoes, pumpkin, mango, papaya, and dark leafy greens. Those greens are about to take center stage thanks to two nutrients you may never have heard spoken aloud: lutein and zeaxanthin, the nutrients that live inside your eye. Their names are lutein and zeaxanthin, and what sets them apart is genuinely unusual. Out of every nutrient in your diet, these two are the only ones that actually gather inside your retina, settling into the macula, the central zone of the retina responsible for sharp, straight-ahead sight. That's the vision you draw on to read a page, recognize a face across a room, thread a needle, or make out a road sign at distance. Once lutein and zeaxanthin take up residence in the macula, they form what scientists call macular pigment, a built-in layer of protection concentrated in the exact spot where you most need clear vision to endure. The catch is a serious one, because your body cannot manufacture either nutrient on its own, not even a trace of it. The only route into your eye runs through your fork, which is why nutritionists describe them as nutrients you have to draw entirely from outside, from the food you choose. This is exactly where most of us come up short. A typical Western diet delivers only about 1 to 3 milligrams of lutein and zeaxanthin per day. Yet the research suggests you want at least 6 milligrams of lutein daily before the benefit shows, while some researchers put the ideal target nearer 10 milligrams of lutein plus 2 of zeaxanthin. Plenty of people, then, take in only a fraction of what their eyes would thank them for, sometimes less than a third. Closing that gap rewards the effort, and the welcome news is that it asks for nothing exotic. The finest sources are ordinary, affordable vegetables, with kale leading the pack at roughly 11 milligrams of lutein per 100 grams. Red peppers follow at about 8.5. Spinach lands near 8. Lettuce around 4.5. Leeks close to 3.5. Broccoli near 3, and peas a touch under 2, while corn and parsley add their share as well. a simple plate of greens can carry you from that deficient 1 to 3 milligrams up into the range that genuinely helps. The humble egg yolk deserves its own mention because it punches well above its weight. An egg yolk holds far less lutein and zeaxanthin than kale does, yet the form it arrives in is absorbed extremely well by the body, what scientists call highly bioavailable. And that advantage traces largely to the fat naturally present in the yolk. That detail about fat rewards a pause, since it's a habit you can apply at every meal. Lutein, zeaxanthin, and vitamin A are all fat-soluble, which means your body takes them up far more readily when a healthy fat rides along. So a drizzle of olive oil over a spinach salad, a little dressing, or greens cooked in a spoonful of oil does more than add flavor, because it genuinely helps your body capture the very nutrients your eyes are waiting for. Strip those greens of all fat, and you quietly waste part of the benefit. One more wrinkle about preparation tends to surprise people, since light cooking can actually raise how much lutein your body pulls from certain vegetables. Raw spinach offers a solid amount, yet lightly cooked spinach hands over considerably more available lutein, while the opposite danger waits at the far extreme. Because overcooking, kale especially, destroys a large share of it and sometimes cuts the content nearly in half. The sweet spot lands on gentle, light cooking, rather than boiling your greens into oblivion. Leafy greens have carried the protection so far, which brings us to fish, and to a real scientific disagreement you deserve to hear told straight. Omega-3s and the honest debate over fish oil. Oily fish like salmon, tuna, and sardines supply a family of fats called omega-3 fatty acids. And one of those omega-3s, known as DHA, is itself a structural building block of the retina. On paper, that makes omega-3s look enormously important for the eyes. And there's fair reason to believe they support eye health as part of a sound overall diet. In practice, the evidence turns murkier than the supplement industry would prefer you to know. And skipping past that would do you a disservice. Omega-3s surface most often in conversations about dry eye, that gritty, burning, irritated sensation that grows far more common with age, a condition affecting an estimated 14% of adults across the United States, which puts it well beyond niche territory. The supplement market has certainly taken notice, since sales of fish and animal-derived supplements add up to more than $1 billion a year in the United States alone. You would expect powerful evidence sitting behind sales of that size, and what actually happened tells a very different story. A large, carefully controlled trial funded by the National Eye Institute, known as the DREAM Study, appeared in the New England Journal of Medicine on April 13, 2018, spanning 27 medical centers and 535 participants. Researchers pitted high-dose omega-3 fish oil supplements against a placebo in people living with moderate to severe dry eye, and the outcome caught many off guard, because the omega-3 supplements proved no better than the placebo at easing dry eye. That result remains genuinely contested by some eye specialists, who raise objections worth hearing. They point out that both groups improved over the year, that the placebo itself was olive oil rather than a truly inert comparison given its own anti-inflammatory properties, and that many participants kept using their other dry eye treatments throughout, which clouds the comparison. This stays a live area where reasonable, well-credentialed experts disagree. My fair summary runs like this. Fish is a healthy food, full of good nutrients, and it earns a place on your plate within a balanced diet. Yet you should stay cautious about expecting an omega-3 supplement, taken on its own, to serve as a guaranteed cure for dry eye, because that science simply isn't settled. Omega-3s fell short in one more arena, and that shortfall ushers us into the most important body of research on this entire subject: AREDS and AREDS 2, the strongest evidence we have. When scientists set out to test rigorously whether nutrients could slow eye disease, the National Eye Institute mounted two major clinical studies, AREDS and AREDS 2, the age-related eye disease studies, which stand as the gold standard on this question. Almost everything serious we understand about nutrition and the aging eye traces back to them, so they reward a close look. The first study ran large and careful, enrolling 4,757 participants between the ages of 55 and 80 across 11 clinics nationwide, and following them for 5 full years. Researchers tested one specific formula, combining 500 milligrams of vitamin C, 400 international units of vitamin E, 2 milligrams of copper, 80 milligrams of zinc, and 15 milligrams of beta-carotene. The payoff was real, because that blend cut the risk of age-related macular degeneration advancing from an intermediate stage to an advanced, vision-threatening one by roughly 25%, a meaningful figure for a disease that carries no cure. A serious flaw shadowed that original recipe, though, since the beta-carotene inside it turned out to raise the risk of lung cancer among people who currently smoked or used to, a genuinely dangerous side effect that nobody could brush aside. That danger is why the National Eye Institute launched the second study, AREDS 2, in 2006, swapping the beta-carotene for, as you might now guess, lutein and zeaxanthin at 10 milligrams and 2 milligrams, while also testing whether added omega-3 fatty acids would help. The findings mattered on 2 counts at once. The reformulated AREDS2 mixture slowed the disease even more effectively than the original, and it became safe for current and former smokers now that the cancer-linked beta-carotene was gone. A conclusion that a 10-year follow-on analysis published in a leading ophthalmology journal went on to confirm and reinforce as the better formula. I want to be exact about what these studies proved and what they did not, because this is precisely where well-meaning videos start overselling. The supplements slowed the progression of macular degeneration in people who already carried it at an intermediate or advanced stage. Yet they did not stop the disease from ever developing. They did nothing for cataracts. And the omega-3 fatty acids added in the second study made no measurable difference whatsoever. What you have here is a tool for slowing a problem already underway, not a shield against its arrival, and certainly not a cure. The reason all of this weighs so heavily for those of us over 50 comes down to the sheer scale of the disease. As of 2019, an estimated 19.8 million American adults aged 40 and older were living with some form of age-related macular degeneration, of whom around 18.3 million sat at the early stage and about 1.49 million at the late vision-threatening stage. Risk climbs steeply with the years, running near 2% among people in their early 40s and approaching half of everyone aged 85 and older. A piece of reassuring context belongs here too. That figure of 19.8 million nearly doubles an earlier estimate of around 11 million, but the jump owes mostly to sharper detection and better retinal imaging, together with a broadened definition of early disease, rather than any sudden explosion in the illness itself. We are simply seeing it more clearly than before. Even so, macular degeneration remains a leading cause of vision loss in older adults, exactly the kind of sight you'll want to defend with every reasonable tool within reach. Pulling it all together, the pattern that protects your eyes. Gather up everything we've covered, and the honest takeaway comes into focus. No single magic food carries the day, because there is no lone vegetable, no solitary pill, no one superfood that does the work. And what the evidence keeps circling back to is a pattern, an overall way of eating. Dr. Emily Chu, the National Eye Institute researcher who led much of this landmark work, has singled out the Mediterranean diet, an approach rich in vegetables, fish, and olive oil, noting it can lower the rate of macular degeneration progression by 25% or more among people who already have the disease or stand at risk of it. Notice how neatly that lines up, because it's the very same family of foods we've circled the whole way through. The dark leafy greens carry lutein and zeaxanthin. The colorful vegetables carry beta-carotene and vitamin A. The oily fish supplies its omega-3s, and the healthy fats, like olive oil, let your body absorb all of it, which means the separate pieces assemble into one coherent, sensible way of eating. One last word of caution closes the loop, since honesty has run through this whole video. A great deal of what you'll read online about foods that improve eyesight comes from companies whose real aim is selling you a supplement. And while that doesn't make all of it wrong, it does mean your trust belongs somewhere steadier, with the National Eye Institute, the American Academy of Ophthalmology, and the World Health Organization, none of which promises a miracle, and all of which promise something far more real, which is protection. Let's return to exactly where we began, now that the full picture sits in front of you. The science reads clearly, and it reads with encouragement, provided we stay honest about it. Because food will not reverse your vision, it will not replace your glasses, and it will not undo damage already done. Yet the foods on your plate genuinely help protect the eyesight you still hold. And past the age of 50, protection is the goal that truly counts. Here is what to do with everything you've learned today. Build your plate around dark leafy greens like kale and spinach, cooked lightly rather than boiled into submission. Add colorful vegetables and some oily fish across the week. And include a healthy fat such as olive oil so your body can actually absorb what those foods offer. Hold on to the principle beneath all of it, that the eye nutrients mattering most, lutein, zeaxanthin, and vitamin A, are ones your body either cannot make at all or cannot make from nothing. So they have to arrive through what you eat. And that is the plain, powerful reason food matters for your eyes. None of this stands in for a real eye exam, and the single most valuable step you can take for your vision remains seeing your eye doctor on a regular basis. Because some serious eye diseases announce themselves with no early warning at all. The next time someone assures you that carrots will hand you the eyes of an eagle, you'll carry the real story with you. And far more usefully, you'll know exactly what to put on your plate instead.